Now, across Texas, the issue is.
I'm Rudy Koski in Austin.
I'm Greg Groogan in Houston.
And I'm Stephen Dial in Dallas. And this is Texas, the issue is.
There is a new speaker in the House. Dustin Burrows, the Republican from Lubbock, won the gavel with the help of Democrats back in January, which, let's admit, remains a sore spot with some of the GOP. Speaker Burrows is now starting to navigate the House through those rough waters of the regular session. Broadsides with the Senate on big topics, yeah, certainly on the charts. I spoke to the Speaker about the possible storms that are brewing, beginning first with why the House is once again putting a business spin to the property tax plan.
It is the economic engine of Texas, and particularly small business. So our tax relief package really helps them. And you talk about every dollar they save in property taxes is money that they're going to have to reinvest in their company, to grow it, to hire more employees. And I think we're going to get a heck of a return on our investment.
And you have a companion bill that's writing that will also help in regards to inventory.
The exemption in there for businesses, small businesses, that's who's really the beneficiary of it. It is fantastic. It puts us second in the entire, country, and Texas goes big, or, that's what we do.
The other big piece of legislation is the school choice legislation, the ESAs. The House is doing it a little bit different from the Senate. Why go a different direction? Why not just rubber stamp the Senate plan and call it a day?
Well, look, the chambers were not designed to rubber stamp each other's pieces of legislation. The House Committee Chair on Public Education has filed his version of the bill. It's a great bill. It provides a lot of parental choice. We're really excited about that. It's going to move through the committee process where every member on the Public Education Committee and the public is going to have an opportunity to comment on it and look for ways to improve it.
You're focusing more on families with kids who have disabilities, and then you start getting into these other sections. Is that why you think you have the better plan?
Look, exactly. The House bill sets aside what I think is more resources available to those families that have those needs, and I think is going to really help them.
I'm going to have to press you on that one because in the last session, property tax plans, school choice plans, the wheels came off and we ended up in special sessions, and some of the things just didn't get done. Are you worried that that's where we're heading right now with these competing plans?
It is February. If we were at this point in May, maybe that's the conversation we could talk about, but it's February.
Teacher pay is always the big one as we get back into regards to wheels coming off last session with teacher pay. What do you envision being the plan? Do you like the Senate plan?
So I like House Bill 2. I think it's a comprehensive, great school finance plan. It invests over $9 billion into public education. It provides for teacher pay, teacher incentive allotments, all sorts of wonderful things.
What's your baby? What do you have that you're going to try to carry through?
I'll tell you the one that I'm really excited about, that I talk about. Making sure our teachers have the ability to have control of their classroom.
You're not talking about a callback for corporal punishment, paddling, right?
No, that's not what this is about. It is simply about making sure that our teachers have the ability to restore order to their classroom in appropriate circumstances.
The hot topic under the Capitol Dome for the past 2 weeks, the lottery. Where do you stand on this issue?
Look, I have concerns. I'm glad that the governor and lieutenant governor have raised them. I know there's an investigation going on. I look forward to the results of the investigation.
Getting the job of Speaker was not exactly easy. And since then, there's been a lot of pushback from some members of the Republican Party that you're working too closely with Democrats. Can you mend the fences? Do you want to mend those fences?
Look, my door is open to everybody who wants to make Texas better. And I think that all of the Republicans, and you've seen this, over time, the Republicans who maybe on day one weren't 100% supportive, I think they're starting to become very supportive.
Should you be working with Democrats? Do you regret giving them committee chairs, subcommittee chairs?
Well, they don't have committee chairs. They do not have committee chairs. Right. It's the first time in Texas history we actually have the most number of Republican chairs in the history of Texas. The focus is taking the 120 members that want to be here and actually get to work and making sure that they are productive for their communities and represent their people.
We talked a lot about priorities, but at the end of the day, when the final gavel sounds, what do you hope will be the legacy of this session?
Education.
A couple of sessions ago, I remember a young man from Lubbock running around clean-shaven. And then you show up sporting the beard. Where did this come from? How did that happen?
Well, I have to admit, this is not my first time. Even in college, I had a beard, so it just kind of comes and goes. But I do think it's appropriate for this session.
Well, it looks good. My good friend, my counterpart in Houston, Greg Groogan, refers to it as the moonshiner's beard. How do you groom it, and what are your tips for people that are thinking about doing this?
Well, you know, I started about 2 weeks ago with the beard. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know if I have any particular things. I would tell you that, you know, it's getting a little bit more gray since I've even started this campaign.
Yeah, and it could get grayer before it ends. Playing off that part of the interview, I initially considered my word for the interview would be hairy, as in things could get a little hairy for the speaker this session. But I switched to Blackbeard because, you know, there was a hint of pirate in what I heard just now. Greg, what's your word?
Rudy, I'm just going to go with ambitious.
Stephen, give us a word.
My word, collegial.
Okay, we'll go with that to the break. The Texas Trio will be back in a moment. And welcome back to The Issue Is with the Texas Trio. Now, the Texas House Speaker Dustin Burrows seems to be primed for a fight, but he says he's willing to negotiate too. Stephen, he also said he's not going to be a rubber stamp. So what is this, a olive branch or a cannon shot?
That's why I said collegial is the word that I use. I think it's a little of both. I think the House will try to get what they can get, and the Senate definitely going to keep their line drawn in the sand. The big issue is going to be property tax, teacher pay, school vouchers. And so we'll see what the House really gets on this. But I think the House is not just going to lay down and take whatever the Senate gives them.
Greg, is the Jolly Roger flying in the house with Burrows, or, you know, will these bunch of pirates just parlay? What do you think?
We all know who the counterparty in this duel is, and a great deal depends on whether Dan Patrick wants to bury the saber, so to speak, or wield it after the lieutenant governor's preferred candidate felt Burrows' blade in the speaker's race. My guess is that school choice gets done without a special and looks more like the Senate bill because Burrows' margin in the House is so thin, even with the additional votes delivered by the governor. The overdue teacher pay hike flies through in part because the money has been socked away since the last chaotic biennium, and also because whether they're in the sticks or in the big cities, teachers vote, and there's lots of them, and they're not going to be happy about choice. Property tax relief will be another arm wrestling match between Senator Betancourt pushing expanded homestead exemptions and the House likely to favor commercial relief and compression. They'll probably end up splitting the baby in a much smaller relief package than we saw in 2022, much of which was intercepted by opportunistic local governments who diluted what the legislature delivered with their own hikes. Rudy?
You know, every session has a sleeper issue. I think one of the big sleepers and the big thing that will come out of this session will be the task force to try to find a cure for dementia. Stephen, what do you think?
I think a sleeper issue can be online sports betting. I know the lottery is putting a dark cloud on things, but with Governor Abbott saying he's open to letting the voters decide, don't sleep on it.
You know, a lot of headline issues there, Greg. What do you got?
Bond reform and whether enough House Democrats feel the growing heat from crime victims to finally allow Texans to vote on a referendum granting judges the discretion to deny bail to repeat violent offenders. Remember, Dems have some stroke here because it requires a 2/3 vote in both chambers.
I know we kind of touched on this, but I want to wrap it up with this. You know, regardless of how many beards are grown this session, you know, we still could be Hatfields and McCoys or maybe an episode of Hee Haw. I'm still not quite sure. What do you guys think, Stephen?
Man, I'm part of the beard gang, so I'm with it.
So you're going Hatfield or McCoy or Hee Haw?
Yeah.
Greg, what do you think?
McCoy.
Look, Rudy, I'm only going to say facial hair fashion only on Texas The Issue Is.
That's right. That's right. I need my Snidely whiplash back. All right, we're going to wrap things up. Greg, take us to the next one.
After the break, we'll take a closer look at the hot mic moment with Congressman Dan Crenshaw. Beware the hot mic. Texas Congressman Dan Crenshaw learning the hard way after a British news organization posted audio and video of what some perceived as a threat aimed at commentator Tucker Carlson.
We've talked a lot on Twitter. If I ever need
The post-interview clip posted by GB News went viral, with other media outlets predictably responding with coverage. Texas, the issue is, spoke with the Houston Republican and former Navy SEAL in his first interview since the story broke. Congressman, let's just clear the air at a fundamental level. Do you have any actual desire to kill Tucker Carlson?
No, Greg. No, Greg, I don't. It's a little shocking that two serious people like you and I, dealing with serious things and serious issues, have to address that. But I suppose we do. I caught that video for myself. After all, I saw the outrage online, and I gotta say that's the lamest quote unquote death threat that I've ever seen. I think it's pretty clear that that's a non-literal turn of phrase, the kind of thing we all say, oh, that guy cut me off. I mean, it's anyone, I think anyone seriously watching and being honest with themselves knows that it's hyperbole said in private. No, Tucker does not have to worry. I absolutely have no desire to harm him.
Look, you've sparred rhetorically with Tucker Carlson on social media, and now he's asking you to sit for an interview. And you're not afraid of the public square. In fact, you embrace it. Are you considering the challenge?
Look, I enjoy combative interviews. I do more combative interviews than I ever do friendly interviews. But and what I've told them is, look, insulting me for years, using my eye patch as a way to insult me because of policy disagreements is not a very good premise for a good faith interview. And so I've told them, no, I mean, we don't have a mutual respect for one another. He clearly doesn't respect me. Again, I only started talking about him publicly maybe in the last year or so. Before that, he's constantly slandering me, using my service to slander me. Of course, I'm not going to ever sit down with this guy. I mean, I don't want to be in the same room with him.
Even in a world gushing with hyperbole, words matter. Are you at all surprised by the reaction? Do you have any regrets about even using words like that?
I'm not that surprised because it seems like everything I do is taken by, this sort of contingent on the far right Twitter trolls that really don't have any principles in mind. They're there to provoke. They're there to look for opportunities to find clickbait and to get engagement. And my name has always been clickbait. It just is, whether I do something or don't do something. We saw this just a few months ago in December when people were accusing me of the most random of accusations regarding the spending bill that just weren't, none of it was true. And even things that aren't true can just spiral. So no, I'm not surprised. It's sort of another day in the life for me.
Okay, my brothers, big deal or no big deal? Crenshaw clearly frustrated by the constant character assassination from hyper-conservatives bent on calling Republicans who don't completely toe their line a sort of DC version of the Civil War we're still seeing here in Texas. Rudy, agree or disagree?
When you live in a glass house, you're going to get stones thrown at you. It just comes with the territory. And we all know the basic rule. If you're wearing a mic, whether it's on or not, it's a hot mic. So treat it like a hot mic. For me, as a journalist, if I'm going to go off the record, I'm shutting down the camera, I'm turning off the mics, taking off the mics, and then I will have the off-the-record conversation at that point. That protects both of us. But I understand where he's coming from. But listen, you had the mic on, brother. It is what it is, right?
All right, Stephen, thoughts on Crenshaw's faux pas?
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate him talking to you about it. I mean, of course, he has to answer to it, right? But I appreciate his honesty about him still saying that he doesn't really care for Tucker Carlson and does not want to sit in a room with him. Bouncing off of what Rudy said, of course, yeah, if you have a mic on, if there is a camera on, regardless if you see that little red light or not, you assume that it's on. And so if you want to have an off-the-record conversation, I would make sure everything is off of me before I have that. We've all had conversations off the record with some of these very same politicians that we show you guys every Sunday and now on Fox Local, but they may have that conversation when the mics are turned off. Should he have said that? No. Should anyone say they want to kill someone? No. But I don't think it was a direct threat.
All right, I think it's fair to say Tucker is a professional performance artist with a huge following, and he's challenged Crenshaw to accept a give and take interview. Crenshaw says no way. Rudy, is that a mistake?
No, I think it's a smart move because, you know, why go into the lion's den now, especially on that situation? But I'm not saying that you don't go into a interview where you know that a news organization may not necessarily like you and you're going to have a combative interview. That's one thing. Going back in to basically go and have a little thriller in Manila with Tucker, why? Other than just expect more clickbait to come out of that. You know, it's you know, unless you really expect to have something in the gutter, don't do it. But if you think, you know, or do it if that's what you're expecting. But if you want a serious conversation, you know, go to one of the other news organizations. Trump does that, and a lot of Trump's appointees are doing that, going to news organizations that are not very friendly, but at least sitting down and talking with them. I think that's important. You got to keep that conversation going, even though it may not be with a group that you like. But that's how you get discussion. But going into the lion's den with Tucker, nah.
All right, Stephen, how would you advise Crenshaw?
Yeah, I'm laughing at Rudy with the throwback comment, thriller in Manila. Man, takes you back. Yeah, I mean, he should not do it unless he's just longing for, you know, more clicks on social media. Then, yeah, he should definitely do it. He knows he's not going to do it. He would be walking into a fire. Now, regardless if he can hold his own, which I think he could, I just don't think it's needed press, and that time can be better spent on actual press. And so that's why he talked to you, and I think he could better spend his time on other topics.
All right, you both touched on this.
What do you think, Greg?
Look, I'm asking the questions here. I'm asking the question here. You know, there's also that ancillary issue of media ethics, and I know you both pretty well. I also know the politicians you both interview share private thoughts and observations when they believe the camera is off. No such scruples from this British outlet. Is it a new age, guys? I think it's to Stephen, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's new age. That it's just the times that we're in. And as some journalists, you're looking to get clicks too. And so I think that's what that person was trying to do.
Thoughts, Rudy?
I don't appreciate that conversation, Greg.
All right.
All right.
Hey, what are we going to break? We're going to be right back with our hot issues.
All right, this segment is called We've Got Issues because, I mean, who doesn't have an issue? Greg, what is your issue?
All right, Stephen, amid the latest battle for bond reform via SJR 5, which grants judges greater discretion to deny violent criminals bond, a case here in Harris County has ignited outrage with the force of a neutron bomb. I'm talking about a defendant charged with capital murder in the ambush killing of a sheriff's deputy, stunningly cut loose this week on a $500,000 bond by what most people call a decarceration judge. Look, I will never sit on any judicial bench, but an accused criminal with a history of violence facing life in prison or the death penalty seems to pose a logical flight risk. And if he does run and must be taken into custody again, what are the chances he will fight rather than surrender, putting the lives of additional peace officers at risk? The whole thing is absolutely crazy town, enough for the Democratic Sheriff Ed Gonzalez to go on record saying exactly that, breaking with fellow Democrats and publicly endorsing SJR 5. Back to you guys.
Rudy Koski, what is your issue?
You know, I'm going to go off politics with my issue for this Sunday night. A few days ago, we lost another Hollywood icon, Gene Hackman, in that situation with his wife and dog being found in their home dead. And while that investigation still continues and all that, just looking back on what Gene Hackman has given us and what a wide-ranging approach to his trade, from cowboy to a gritty detective, to a basketball coach, to the powers of Washington, D.C. and the inner halls. Man, he certainly did it all. And to Lex Luthor and the Superman movies. We were going over and looking at his full film listings and all that, and it's just pretty amazing. And it's sad to look right now at the iconic, powerful actors that we have lost recently and are losing right now, and it kind of makes me sad. But I also want to say, thanks to all these individuals who have given us so much on stage and screen, and so that's my issue.
All right, my issue is sort of political. Well, it is political, but it's off topic. Multiple people reacted to my post of sharing Dallas Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, who had some colorful language about what she would say to Elon Musk. It started with an F, ended with an off. And it opens the conversation for me and other people as to, Donald Trump kind of says what's on his mind, and we're kind of entering this realm of more politicians saying what's on their mind. But the question is it appropriate when you involve curse words? We just finished talking about Dan Crenshaw and his hot mic issue. I think this is just becoming the new norm. Some politicians, Jasmine Crockett knew she said it on the open mic. She knew what she was doing. But I think we're going to start seeing more politicians do it. Honestly, I'm not against it. That's all I'm going to say.
I'd like to see more civility, though, Stephen. And we'll end it with that. You can see our interview with Speaker Burrows or any of our past interviews by going to our YouTube pages.
And keep the conversation going by interacting with us on social media.
Oh yeah, we'll be back next week to talk more about what's happening at the state capitol and across the Texas political landscape. In the meantime, don't forget to let us know what you think the issue is.